The coastline, for me, has always functioned conceptually as a site of arrival and departure. Salt water and seawater, thinking of salt as a material that corrodes and preserves. I'm always interested in sort of the duality that nature presents. Whenever I'm around the coastline, I film. I'm always sort of like gathering images of the edges and thinking about what happens when that water goes past that line. Sea level rise is impacting lands throughout the world. There's micro erosions that are happening. What is that shift for all of us? So the last part of the chapter is currently I'm a professor of art at New Jersey City University. Working as an artist, and I think also with young artists, also keeps me kind of like perpetually a student and always wanting to know and just being curious. I made 2 trips down to Louisiana. To me, New Orleans served as an interesting site to project from. It's a very vibrant community. It's fertile ground for imagination, I think, here. Like just driving down the street, you see so many people are engaged with so many different ideas. So the work I have in Prospect 6 at the UNO Gallery, Sea Desalts, is a 6-channel video installation with sound as well as 9 still images and text. Prospect came to me because he knew my work was already dealing with issues around climate change.
Prospect is an international art triennial. It's the longest one of its kind in the US in that it's made of 21 venues all around the city of New Orleans. Everything from art museums to art on the shores of the Mississippi. Each cycle we welcome many hundreds of thousands of people to the city of New Orleans in celebration of art. The theme of this year's iteration is "The future is present, the harbinger is home." New Orleans is living in close proximity to climate change. A harbinger people think of as a threat, right? Something that's looming in the future. But we love how the origins of this word hold the word harbor, to prepare a space for others. It is the one that has to go forward in advance. Deborah Jack's piece brings together the cost of human intervention with footage from St. Martin's, Maine, and New Orleans, and shows a sense of interconnectedness, which is absolutely the key to our collective survival.
Where the river and the sea meet is where they each cease to be. In between intertwining wetlands in reverent making and unmaking. The whole idea of a sea desalts had to do with sort of, the melting of the polar ice caps was leading to sort of like sea level rise. As the planet gets warmer, hurricanes function almost like as a natural sort of like cooler to the planet. And so the warmer the planet, the more the hurricanes sort of increase.
We took Deborah to an area called Neptune Pass, which is an area that we've been studying, looking at various river systems or various wetlands and marshes and how they're changing. And so we helped collect some of the video that's in her installation. I love seeing the natural world in action. Deborah's installation does a very powerful job of showing that sea level rise and coastal change is something that people all across the world should be thinking about. I thought it was really thought-provoking to see that in combination with scenes from other places. Louisiana, in many ways, is one of the first areas to experience extreme weather from climate change. The kinds of things that we experience here are the kinds of things that people all over the world, including places like New Jersey, will experience in the years ahead. As a scientist and as an educator, I try to do everything I can to help people relate to the natural world, but there's also a role for the arts to reach people in a way that science can't reach people. And I think that there's a real role for artists like Deborah Jack and others to communicate the story of our changing planet.
The science is there, but it's like, how do we feel living in these spaces? Growing up in St. Maarten in the Caribbean, having gone through several hurricanes in my lifetime, I think it lingers, it resonates more. I remember going through Hurricane Lewis in '95 and really not dealing with it, and then not until Hurricane Katrina hit in 2005, sort of like watching that devastation. That's when I had an emotional response to what had happened to me. There's a moment when people are interviewing someone who's lost everything and lost their house. And that moment, that look in their eye is one that always will tear me up. So I think art is a really powerful tool. I'm drawn to trying to think about pulling out sort of like feelings, because I think that's the human part. That's where we connect to things. Even though I work with a variety of media, filming something is probably my default. As a kid in St. Maarten, I was always interested in that like rectangle and what could happen in that space. There's a sort of experiential component to the moving image, and in my case too, also then the multiple screens. Editing a multi-screen installation is always challenging. A lot of times it's about thinking about these screens are having a conversation with each other, conversating and having a negotiation, so to speak, visually. Having multiple screens forces you to be a bit more active. You have to move through the space, sort of forced to sit with it, and sometimes look at it more than once. When I'm making work like this, it's always, tricky. I try not to be didactic. I'm not trying to preach. And I think I want people to feel a sense of something. Because the world is changing, the emotions are also changing. As we make work about climate change, it can always feel very doom. Dr. Alex Kolker told me about how Neptune Pass had gone from a 175-foot waterway expanding into like 800 feet wide. Here I come thinking about land loss, and here was nature building land. I'm trying to be more and more careful in terms of like having hope in the work, not sort of like a frivolous sense of hope, but also just thinking that yes, there is also this opposite that nature takes, but it also provides. I want the people who come to see my work to at least come away compelled to sort of like ask some questions about the landscape that they're in. I think when land is so vast like it is here in the US, the minute you're like in a more inland area, it's easy to forget like what are the edges really about? What is happening at your edges?